and welcome to ACC's Gentle Yoga at Noon. We're in the community room. I'm Jeani, your host for the next hour. We are focusing on a gentle yoga practice where we have about a 5-10 minute warm-up at the beginning. We move into a walking meditation that kind of warms up the body, major joints, and then we'll be using a few balancing poses before we move on down to the floor. So today's practice, we're going to be on the floor. So if you have any issues getting down, I suggest you have a chair nearby. You can use your blocks and hopefully meet the distance with the help of those two props. If not, you can also just stay in the chair, and we can do some of those cooling down exercises from there as well. So that being said, we'll go ahead and start at the back of the mat. And make sure that volume is up. Here we go. Now as we arrive, there we go. As we arrive at the back of the mat, we're standing in our home base of mountain. And you don't really have to change the quality of your breath. You're just giving your time, your space and time to the body to arrive. Notice how your feet are feeling on the mat. If you have tender, sore legs, keep a gentle bend to the knees. As we return to our mountain, we'll come back with each iteration a little longer in the legs, a little taller and stronger in our pose. But until then, just give yourself a little gentle bend to the knees in just a moment or two to arrive. We'll be breathing through the nose on both the inhales and the exhales unless otherwise noted. So giving ourselves that chance to cultivate the breath, let's go ahead and place our left palm on the heart, right palm under the belly button. And we can start to focus in on a more yogic breath. Notice how the air enters the nose. At the top of the inhale, you might feel the collarbones lift. A brief pause before we start a slow, controlled exhale through the nose. And at the bottom of that exhale, engage the core, the belly. You can even bring the belly hand in, pressing it inward to help remind you. And as we slowly cultivate the next few breath cycles, the inhales, the pauses, the exhales, our breath rate will start to slow. And hopefully you can feel the heart beating a little slower as well. As we finish cultivating the yogic breath with the sound, the ocean, or a deep sigh at the back of the throat. Open the space above the throat there, the voice box. See if you can hear something at the back of the throat on both the inhales as well as the exhales. Remember to engage the belly at the bottom of the exhale. As we're connected to that yogic breath, we can go ahead and release the hands to the side. With the next inhale, feel as if you're drawing energy from the feet through the earth to the feet, up the legs, up the spine, to the crown of the head, and beyond. Briefly pause before you exhale through the nose. Feel that energy reverse direction back down the body back into the earth, feeling a little more rooted at the bottom of the exhale, core engaged. With the next inhale, we'll start to slowly tip our weight towards the toes at the soles of our feet. At that edge, after that breath completes, we'll go ahead and use the next breath to start moving back towards the heels. The body is somewhat upright. You're just feeling the center of gravity shifting from heel to toe for the next few breath cycles. Moving slowly to feel the sole of the feet, all the muscles, the tendons, responding to that slight shift in the center of our gravity. When you find that exploration, go ahead and return to the center. Feel that center of gravity above the ankles, somewhere near to the heels. And then we'll reset the mountain once more. Feeling a little longer, feeling that string, imaginary string at the crown of the head, lifting all the way up towards the ceiling. Exhale, start to shift the weight towards the outer right edge of the feet. Fully exhale to that edge. We'll inhale back up to center. Exhale over to the other side for a 3-part breath. Or just use each inhale and exhale from side to side, a 2-part breath. We just explore that horizontal movement now of the body as one long unit, just shifting the center at the soles of the feet. Notice how it feels in the ankles, in the arches, in the hips, all throughout the body. And then we'll return to center once more, dipping into our mountain to reset. Lift the toes, lift the heels if you need, and making sure once more our tailbone is tucking under as we go through each mountain pose. I'm feeling just a little longer in the legs. We'll move on to the next warm-up. We're going to start to shift our weight from side to side, and you can widen the stance of the feet by pivoting out the toes. And as we start to move from side to side, you start to get a little more momentum in the upper body. And the arms are nice and relaxed. And as more and more of the upper body moves to one side, we'll lift the toes to make sure that the knee doesn't get a little stuck. There isn't any unusual torquing of the knee. And the arms are nice and relaxed, really just moving gently, indirectly, as a result of this momentum shift at the base of our mountain here. And if you get more and more momentum and the arms start to swing, imagine the torso just gently twisting at the waist. Maybe enough movement such that the arms might tap into the body. And then you can start to reduce that momentum. Just let the body peter out that movement, and we'll come on back to our mountain. Bring in the heel to toe alignment once more, shifting at the base if you need. You can always lift the feet if you have a tendency to grab at the mat. And moving up towards the body, we're now moving up to the shoulders. We're going to think about really tucking under the tailbone, lifting up through the chest and pressing into the balls of the feet, the entire soles of the feet, but with a special note at that ball of the foot, as if you're going to come up to your tiptoes. And as that occurs, you hopefully have more of the soles of the feet, including the arches, making contact with the mat. We'll go ahead and place the palms to face forward, relaxing the arms, keeping the body upright as much as possible. Lift up the shoulders on the inhale, and then exhale, roll them back, and just let them melt down your back. We'll do a total of 4 breath cycles here. Inhaling, shoulders go up. Exhaling, just letting the shoulder girdle roll back. Shoulder blades move on, melt on down the back. Fully exhaled, engaged core. And as you're moving thoughtfully with each yogic breath in, the pause, and the out, and the pause, hopefully we'll relieve any tension in the shoulders. And after your fourth cycle, inhaling up, exhaling back and down, we'll repeat a second set. Inhaling shoulders up, but this time exhaling them forward, a forward roll of the shoulders, but still letting them melt down the back. If you can imagine the shoulder blades resting on the back like angel's wings, you want the bottom tips tucking into the mid-back at the bottom of the exhale. And as you breathe in deeply, you may even find the rib cage expanding sideways. All right, we'll move on up to the throat. And as you can, inhale all the way up through that crown of the head, lifting, energizing upwards. We're going to exhale, slowly let the right ear dip towards the right shoulder. Keep both shoulders in one line. Inhaling, you feel that lift even at the chest, so that you exhale, turn the gaze, and just let it turn until it naturally stops. Don't force it. Take the next 3 to 4 breath cycles to just relax the left side of the neck. We're keeping the body supported from the shoulders down to the heels, while using the yogic breath to help us inhale energy into the body and exhale. See if you can relax the side of the neck, the eyes, still maintaining space between the right earlobe and the right shoulder. About a tennis ball size space. Maybe by that very last exhale, your eyes will be at the rightmost of your vision. Maybe on the right thumb, the right shoulder, perhaps on the floor behind the right shoulder. And then after that last exhale, inhale the eyes back into the gaze. The gaze turns, the head lifting completely at the top of the inhale. So all you have to do is exhale the left ear towards the left shoulder. Inhale for length. Exhale to turn the gaze. And using 3 to 4 breath cycles here to see if you can relax, release the right side of your neck, the eyes, the right side of your face. Remembering to keep the hands somewhat facing forward to help keep the shoulders rotated away from the ears. And that deep yogic breath, really facilitating the release on the right side of the neck. And after that last exhale, you can inhale the eyes, the gaze, the top of the head back up towards the center. And then exhale, let the eyes float downward, landing at the top of the mat about 6 feet in front of you, with the space, again, about a tennis ball size between the chin and the chest. We want that inhale to have that lifting feeling, but with a slight diagonal tilt at the crown of the head. And again, 3 to 4 breath cycles to help release through the back of the neck. Notice if your arches are rolling out or in. See if you can even them out, keeping the shoulders all the way down to the soles of your feet in one somewhat stationary support position. Keeping that bend to the knees, not locking out the legs. And after the very last exhale, you can inhale the eyes back towards the midline, past the midline, up to the ceiling. When you see someone above you, stop craning the neck. And we're just going to use the next 3 to 4 breath cycles to release in the front of the neck, the mouth, the jaw. Relax the brow line, You can make a small O opening and enlarge it to a large O opening. You can gently move the lower jaw left to right and breathe deeply. You can make small movements with the lower jaw, with the tongue. See if there's any hidden tension in clenched jaws. And then we can slowly, after our last breath cycle, bring the eyes back to the midline. And then shake out any residual holding of muscles from that last pose. You can lift the feet. You can give yourself a little bounce at the knees. You can shake out the shoulders. And we'll come back to resetting our mountain once more, just a little longer, a little taller. See if you can bring the torso back, right above the hip bones. And we'll start with our first fold. So the arms are just nice and relaxed at the sides of your body here, but you're reaching downwards. And with that reaching feeling with the fingers, we're going to inhale extended arms above towards the ceiling. And then engaging the core, we're going to exhale. Start to shift the hips back just slightly so you can come down, hinging at the hips with a straight back. Engaged core, and that includes stepping into the feet. And you can always walk the hands down if you need, or just float on down. You're slowly letting the lower back, the hips open up, and give yourself some time here. If you have the blocks next to you, you can place your hands on the blocks if you need support. You can bring your forearms to the thighs. If your legs are really tight, you can keep a deeper bend, lowering the tailbone just a little bit. But eventually, we're hoping to bring the chest closer to the thighs. And we're here in our first forward fold for about 5 breath cycles. We're calling this a ragdoll fold. We want to try to relax from the tailbone down to the crown of the head, while the hips to the heels are supporting you. Notice, make sure the foundation at the feet are nice and stable before you move into consciously relaxing more of the upper body. Keeping the breath nice and slow. See if you can release holding the head, the weight of the head from the neck by just gently nodding left to right, forward and back, and maybe even just releasing, surrendering the head to gravity, letting nature's natural traction occur with the help of gravity. And as we come out of our first ragdoll, we're going to do so with a slow roll-up. An inhale, engaged core, a pressing into the feet, a firming of the thighs as we slowly step into our legs. And we are just bringing one vertebra up at a time. You can always walk the hands up, but try to keep the load in the legs so you're really engaging the legs, the glutes. And as the last thing that stacks on the neck, the spine, is the head. Give yourself a moment to let the blood rush back. And we'll do that once more, a little shorter time in our fold this time. Reaching downward with the fingertips, inhale, extend the arms up above. Engage the core, start to hinge at the hips, pushing the tailbone back, floating on down or walking the hands down if you need. And keeping our support from the hips down to the heels, nice and strong. Fully exhaled into our fold. We're only here for about 3 breath cycles this time. You can always shift the hips from side to side. You can bend one knee, lengthen it, alternate with the other leg. Just give yourself some movement to help you feel a little more comfortable.
And if you're holding on to the head, once more, give it a gentle movement to remind yourself to release from the tailbone, down the spine, down to the crown of the head. And with this next return to mountain, you have a choice of either rolling, doing the slow roll up, or with a straight back. Either way, on the inhale, we engage our core, we step into our feet, come on back up. Bring your hands together. And as you're lengthening, really reaching up into the air here, exhale, hands down, heart center. We'll begin our walking meditation. If you need the blocks, and I'm going to remind myself to bring the blocks this time. Go ahead and bring those into the center and we'll start our walking meditation. You can bring your standing weight to the left side of the body. Once you feel that stability there, go ahead and lift the right heel on the inhale. You can lift, see if you can have that balance and step the foot forward, either heel or midfoot, toes down. And as you launch from that back foot, you should be fully exhaled into the front foot. And then inhale, lift up the left foot and bring that forward. If you fall out, that's okay. See if pressing into the palms helps to regain your balance, but you're moving slowly, lifting the foot on the inhale, exhaling that foot forward, 1 full breath cycle per step. Engaged core. And we'll meet at the top of the mat. If you have a chair at the top of the mat, or your blocks, either way, we'll inhale here and exhale. Start to fold once more, bringing the hips back and the back straight. But you can also float it down, walk it down. Your hands can be at the chair. They can be at the blocks if you brought them with you. We're up for another fold, fully exhaled here. Inhale, press into wherever your hands or forearms are to lengthen through the legs and through the back. And make sure you're not rolling out at the soles of the feet. We want the soles of the feet evenly distributing the weight. And then we can exhale back to the fold. Fully exhaled here. We can inhale once more, half lift. Exhale, fold. And then bring the hands to either side of the feet or the blocks if you need. We're going to step a foot back. You might have to make a couple steps back. But if you can do one step back with each leg into your high plank, we then inhale our shoulders over the wrists. And then in that first high plank, we're going to modify by bringing the shins down. And notice where you are. I feel like my shoulders are a little far forward, so I can either move the knees back or the hands forward. If your wrists are on the sore side, you don't need to have them on a 90-degree angle to the floor. You can shift back a little further or bring the hands further forward. But we want to have the shoulders somewhat above the wrists. Have the core engaged. Feel the shins, the tops of the ankles, supporting the lower weight. And if the tops of the ankles being on the floor is just too much for you, you can always tuck the toes. But we want to see if we can open up the ankles and give our high plank a nice support modified with the shins down. And we're still pressing into the arms. Fingers are splayed, index and middle fingers towards the top of the mat, core engaged. We're here for about 5 breath cycles, which we're almost done with. So imagine our shoulders nice and wide, moving away from the spine. In a protracted position, we're pressing into long, extended arms. And the weight of our hands is not just concentrated at the heels of the palm, but throughout the palms, from the heel to the fingertips. With the next inhale, go ahead and tuck the toes and lift up the hips. Exhale, press into those arms to shift the hips back into your first down dog. Now you can adjust the feet distance between each other. If they're a little too narrow, we want them about hips distance apart. You can shift the hands if they're not shoulder width apart. Try to get them there. And if you can imagine the elbows bending back towards the back of the mat, that will help to keep the shoulders away from the ears. And the head somewhat in between the upper arms. Now the heels can be lifted, but if they're down on the mat, you might have a slight pigeon-toed position to the toes at that point. But this is your practice, so wherever you are, in our first lengthy down dog, about 5 breath cycles, we can walk our dog. We can bend one knee, alternate with the other leg. We can inhale shoulders, up to the tiptoes, to the balls of the feet. Imagine the tailbone lifting here. And on the exhale, just slowly letting the heels float downward. And keep that good, even distribution of weight at the hands. If you need, you may need to also shift the difference, adjust the difference between the hands at the top and the feet at the back. If your upside down shape is more like a U, that's okay. We're moving towards an upside down V at some point. So as your hips open up, imagine the tailbone, the apex lifting up towards the ceiling, while from that apex down to the hands and to the feet, respectively, we have 2 different directions of energy towards the earth. All right, with the next inhale, we're going to roll our eyes towards the hands. And then exhale, bend the knees deeply if you need. We're going to walk the hands to the back of the mat, to the fold. Step back if you were a little far forward. Sometimes I am. Into our fold here, so that you can inhale, press into wherever your hands are to lengthen. Lengthen through the legs, lengthen through the back, and then exhale one more time. In here, you can bend the knees if you need, but we can come up, slow roll up, or with a straight back. Inhaling, lifting all the way up, pressing into the legs, engaging the glutes, lifting with our hands, and then exhaling, hands down heart center. We'll move into our second walking meditation. Inhaling, standing weight to the left side of the body, lifting the right foot. You don't have to lift the foot up high. If you just get the heel up and you toe tap every now and then, that's fine too. Exhale that foot down. Once you have that stability, inhale the left foot up. And exhale that down. You can hover the foot up. You can make a small movement forward, or you can challenge yourself by lifting the knee higher up and stepping a full foot, 1.5 feet forward. Just depends on where you are. Remember, engaging your core, pressing into the palms to help keep you balanced, but it's okay if you fall out. We'll meet at the top of the mat in our mountain. Looking down at the fingertips, inhale, press into the palms, watch them rise. And at the top, we'll separate the palms. Exhale, hinge at the hips and fold. Float on down, walk on down. Wherever you are, fully exhaled into your fold. Inhale, half lift, lengthen through the back and through the legs. Exhale, fold. And then we'll bring our hands to either side of the feet and step back into our high plank. This time, long legs, inhaling shoulders over the wrists. We stay here for about 3 breath cycles, nice and strong. Keeping that energy and a hypotenuse from the heels to the crown of the head, as well as the energy of pressing into the floor from the shoulders down to the hands, from the heels down to the balls of the feet. One more deep inhale. One more deep exhale. Stick the belly button to the core, to the spine. Lift up the hips. Inhaling, exhale, press the hips back into your down dog. Make your adjustments as needed. We stay here for about 3 breath cycles as well. You can walk your dog. You can swivel the hips. You can come up to tiptoes and exhale slowly, the heels downward. Make your adjustment as you start to work towards that V shape, bringing the chest closer to the thighs and keeping a bend to the knees if you need. You can have a deep bend, but try to keep that hip, the tailbone lifted, and shoulders rolled away from the ears. With the next inhale, roll the eyes towards the hands. Keep the bend to the knees if you need. And we're going to exhale the hands to the back of the mat, to the fold. Fully exhaled here. Inhale, half lift. Exhale, fold. Inhale, come on up, your choice. Slow roll up or a straight back. Reaching up at the top. Exhaling, hands down, heart center. It's our final walk back up. Inhaling, standing weight to the left side of the body. Lifting the right foot. Exhaling it forward. Engaging your core is key. One full breath cycle per step at your pace with the yogic breath. And at the top of the mat, we'll meet in mountain. Looking down at the fingertips, press into the palms, extend the arms up. Separate the palms, exhale, hinging at the hips. Bring the tailbone back, fold. Fully exhaled at the bottom of the fold. Inhale, half lift, lengthen through the back, through the legs. And then fold once more, exhaling. Bring the hands to either side of the feet. Step one foot back, step the other, maybe a few steps back into a high plank. We inhale the shoulders over the wrists. Stay here for 3 breath cycles. Engage your core. Make sure you're pressing into all points of the palms, even the skin between the digits of the first and second knuckles of each finger. One more inhale, one more exhale. And we can lift the hips. Exhale, press hips back towards your down dog. See if your heels are just a little lower. And we're here for 3 breath cycles as well. After that last exhale, inhale, roll the eyes towards the hands. Keep a bend to the knees. Exhale the hands to the back of the mat, walking them to the fold. Fully exhaled here. Inhale, half lift. Exhale, fold. Inhale, come up. Engaged core, reaching up at the top. Exhaling, hands down, heart center. And relaxing the arms down to the side. And hopefully you feel a little warmer. You've got maybe a little more warmth in the body. And it's a great time for a little bit of water. And then we'll be moving into our balancing poses. And you can do this in the chair. You can do this next to the chair. But what we're going to make sure is if you do have an issue with balance, you have something you can reach out to. We have a ballet bar at the back of the room. You can use the wall. And again, you can use the chair. And just to make sure here. Okay, I'll bring this over here. Just something that you can reach out towards, reach out to. And if you're on a slippery linoleum floor, just make sure that at least 2 legs are on your mat or rug. Okay. And all we're going to do is stand in our mountain and reset the mountain this time. Notice if you've got a different mountain. And we're trying to get that internal rotation of the thighs. So you can imagine if you're going to step into a tiptoe position, that should have your thighs at more of an internal rotation. And feet, not too narrow. If your hips are on the wider side, make sure that you've got a nice opening there. The closer your feet are together, the more challenging it is for your balance. So if you want to challenge yourself, you can bring your feet closer together. But we're going to start with our mountain with a hips distance apart foot position. Notice if the tailbone is tucked under. You can just play around with the pelvic bowl, sticking the tailbone back, and then just let it tuck under. You should feel a lifting at the sternum without doing a back bend or anything. It's just a lifting up of the torso so that it's sitting right on top of your pelvic bowl. Alrighty. Now here we're going to shift our weight to our right side of the body. It's a slight, subtle shift. We're not going to jut out our right hip. We're just going to bring that subtle center of gravity towards the right side so that you can lift the left heel and not feel as if you're losing that center. Engaging the right glute as well, that standing legs glute, just to make sure you've got everything active from the foot all the way up to the body, nice and tall. And with that left heel lifted, see if you can start to bring the ball of that foot up. And you might have to tap it down. You might have to hold onto your chair. But see if you could just slightly hover that foot above the mat. Now you're not going to be lifting the knee too far. You just want to hover that foot off the mat because we're here for a little bit of time. Once you can hold it up, and don't worry if you have to tap down, but we're here for about 3 to 5 breath cycles. Engaging your core. And if you need to stay with the ball of the foot in contact with the mat, that's fine. You want to focus on engaging that standing foundation of the standing leg first, and then you can work on lifting the opposite foot's sole if you need. And at that point, we're just playing with balancing on one leg. And sometimes you have to tap down, that's okay. And that's about 5 breath cycles for me. So as we bring balance to both our legs, returning to home base of mountain, you're probably noticing how active your standing leg is. So give yourself a little bit of support with that foot that you just brought back down, and see if you can lift the right standing leg heel and give it a little bit of a roll at the ankle, one direction and then the other, and that'll hopefully counter stretch and help your body to release any still active muscles in that glute area. You can, if you're able to stand, kick a little weight forward with that standing right leg. That just works so hard. And hopefully that'll release a little more. You can always shift out. So it's always forward and out on that same side of that leg before you cross the midline. And that also helps to release all sorts of tightness in that gluteal area. All right, and then we'll come back to our mountain to move to the other side. Now making sure that you have your about 1 square foot box once more. And you can always roll from heel to toe just so that you have an even standing there. And then lengthen through the legs. Once more, internal rotation of the thighs. And now we're bringing standing weight to the, I believe it's to the left leg now. Yes, thank you. And then, as you start to feel that support there, you can lift the right heel this time. And again, it's not more necessary to lift the knee so much as it is to find that stability here so you can hover that right sole of the foot without leaning too far to this side. So you want to keep this left standing leg engaged from the glutes all the way down to the leg. We're not hyperextending the knee. We should be stacking the hip above the knee, above the ankle, so that all we're doing is finding that opening where we can lift the sole of the right foot. You might have to tap down a few times, but once you've found that you can lift it, or you might be there just developing the standing leg strength, and you can have the ball of the foot down.
But if you can hover the right foot up above the mat for about 3 to 5 breath cycles. And it's okay if you fall out, if your foot taps back down. We're developing our balance here. Now, if you find that this is really easy for you, then you can, of course, challenge yourself more and start to bend the right knee, bend the lifted leg's knee, and bring it higher up. But I'm happy if I can just hover the foot for 3 to 5 breath cycles. Engage your core. And when you're ready, after that very last breath, you can step the right foot down and start to bring a balanced, even weight to both feet. And again, you can release through the left side, all those hard-working muscles to stabilize the leg by lifting that left heel and just giving yourself gentle ankle rolls in one direction and then the other. And if you feel that you would like a little more counter stretching, and if you have stability in the other leg, you can kick forward a little bit. Maybe you have to hold on to your chair. Kick forward just a little bit. Kick out to the side, same side leg, before you cross that midline. Then hopefully you're feeling some gluteal, IT band, all sorts of inner, outer leg muscles awakened here. And now what we're going to do is coming back to our standing position. I'm going to turn to the side, but we can have our 1-foot mountain once more. And now hopefully we have a little stronger, taller mountain. And all we're going to do at this point is inhale, start to roll to the tiptoes. You can start to lift the hips. And strengthen to that point of ease and comfort of keeping the heels lifted. You can be high up on the tiptoes if this is easy for you, or you could just slightly hover the both heels above. And breathe for 3 to 5 breath cycles once you've found that comfortable, steady position. Engaged core, glutes are engaged, and the calves. Just standing on tiptoes for about 3 to 5 breath cycles. And then we'll slowly let the heels return back to the mat. And give yourself a gentle bend at the knees, at the hips if you need, and bounce. Just give yourself a nice little gentle bounce. See how we're doing with time. And now we're making our way down to the floor. We're going to be meeting in our staff position. So if you need the chair to go down to the floor, or if you'd rather stay in the chair, go ahead. But as we're making our way down to staff, I'm going to demonstrate in the chair just in case first. We want to make sure our sits bones are at the edge of the chair seat. But if you're down at the mat, you want to make sure you're sitting upright with your legs nice and long if possible. If that's difficult for you, you can always sit on blocks to elevate the hips above your legs, and that seems to help. But if you're in the chair, go ahead and bring the legs out, and you can lift the heels to kind of give yourself that nice long leg. And we want to keep our chest upright. As when we're in our staff position down on the floor, we want to keep the torso as upright as possible. This is more of a, maybe, a wider angle than 90 degrees. But when you're seated on the floor, you want to keep from curving the back. So you may need to lift your hips above the floor by sitting on a block, which I'll demonstrate in just a moment. But if you're here, this is where you're going to be in the chair. And we're just lengthening through our leg. And then you'll be bringing your knee in, and you can bring the toes to lift up, or you can bring a block underneath that foot to help you come into our head to knee base position. And this is all you'll do in the chair. Lengthening through your leg, one at a time while you're bending and flexing at the hip there. I'm going to make my way down to the floor now. And if you're on a block,
And that will really help to bring your torso up. Now, I like 2 blocks side to side, but if you can manage sitting on 1, that's fine too. But because my hips are so tight, I've noticed my lower back is really rounding until I can get more flexibility in my hips. Making sure in your staff position, your feet are about hips distance apart. And what we're looking for again is that 90-degree angle at about the hips, doing what you can where you can. So hopefully you're sitting upright, nice and tall. And of course, if you're down on the mat, we're sitting upright, just the best way that we can. And then eventually, we'll just inhale, bring this, start with the left knee. You can do the right if that's easier for you. But as my back is really curving, as you can notice, because of tight hips, it is better for me to be down or up on blocks. And that'll help you to open up through the hips and eventually sit upright. And if it's difficult for you to sit upright with a straight back, you may need to hug in that knee, hug in that shin. And as we're here, we're trying to get ourselves about 3 to 5 breath cycles to get to an easy, comfortable position that we can hold. And eventually, we're taking 5 to 10 breath cycles. They could be 5 nice, long, slow yogic breaths, or 10 faster ones, but try to make them as relaxed as possible. If you've noticed that you're holding a lot of tension and it's difficult to breathe, that's usually an indication that you've gone a little too far, and you can always bring out the leg. They does not need to come up as close. You're working on getting the base before you move to the next level. And if the hips are really tight, you're just working on eventually sitting upright with the torso, and then you can worry about, or you can think about your foot getting closer to the groin area as you move along. That in our head to knee position, our base position, eventually we're hoping to get to a position where we can sit upright. And breathe our 5 to 10 breath cycles, nice and slow. Inhales remind you to bring the energy, scan the body. Notice if there's any achiness, any tension that you're holding on to. For instance, by that 3rd or 4th breath cycle, you may feel parts of the body starting to release, just not holding on, not actively using the muscles. And when you're ready to come out, we're just going to allow this left leg to lengthen. You may have to curve the back, bring a hand strategically behind you if you need, and inch that leg back down. Now with both feet extended, we're just going to lift up a little taller through the sternum, from the tailbone up to the crown of the head. And you can tap out your legs, even if you're seated, tap out the legs, but minding yourself to sit up nice and tall and with as best of a 90-degree angle to the hips that you can. And we'll move to the other side. Go ahead and bend the right knee. Do what you need to do to find your sweet spot in this side of the head to knee pose. And you might find that one side is tighter than the other, or it might be just as good. Just depends. Takes about 3 to 5 breath cycles. Find your sweet spot. If you're seated and you've got the legs extended, bending that right knee, and if you would like a little more lift with that right knee, you can always place a block underneath that foot. But we're eventually trying to find somewhat of a shape where we can sit with our hips flexed and the knee as close to the groin as possible. And once you find that spot, breathe 5 to 10 breath cycles. find in the last few breath cycles that you're releasing, maybe in the right side of the hip, maybe in the toes, in the ankles. Alrighty. To come out, we're going to curve the back if we need to, bring hands strategically behind you if you need, and allow this right foot to inch its way up and help the right leg to extend. And again, sit yourself upright best that you can in your base bridge, staff position, and you can tap out the knees if you need. You can start to internally and externally rotate the hips by just simply waving your feet. You can point the toes, flex the feet, splay the toes, do whatever counter movement that you need to release from that last pose. And then we're going to meet in our base bridge position. And if you're in the chair, just sitting upright, making sure your hip bones are at the base of this, at the edge here, so you can sit upright best that you can. And you'll have about that 90-degree angle bend to your knees. And you'll meet us in this bridge position, but you'll be in the chair. So if you're down on the mat, go ahead and come on down, one elbow at a time, supporting your back. Make sure the spine and neck are in one alignment. Your neck is not curved out to one side or the other, or squished by your blanket. And the feet, you can have that somewhat near to you, so that if you brushed your fingers down, you could, if you brought your fingertips down to the heels, they brush against them just slightly. And you want your feet, whether you're on the chair or on the mat, hips distance apart. And in your base bridge position, we're going to make sure if you're on the chair, you've got a hold of the base of the chair, or arms if you've got arms on there. We're just gonna let the knees drop to one side. Your feet are not moving. Your feet are just pretty much rolling to the outer edge, the right edge in this case for me, as I'm windshield wiping my knees to one side. And give yourself a few breaths here. See if you can relax through this left side of the hip, all the way down that thigh. And breathe deeply. The yogic breath really helps to facilitate each inhale, to balloon the upper chest. You may get the rib cage to expand sideways. And then to exhale with focus, engaging the core, expelling the air completely at the bottom of the exhale. Just a couple few breath cycles like that. And then we're going to inhale. Bring the knees up. You can assist your thighs, but really try to keep the sacrum down, that lower back bony part down, so it rolls back onto the mat. So if you're in the chair, you're just seated back with your knees out in front of you, or on your back with your knees up towards the ceiling. And then we're going to exhale. Let the windshield wipe occur to the opposite side. And if you find that your lower back is feeling really nice here, that's because it's a great modified spinal twist here. But you can have just the outer left edge of your feet basically touching the floor. And if you really relax into it, opening up, you can let your shoulder lift up off of the floor if you need, or you can keep it down on the floor. Work with what you have, and hopefully you'll find that great stretch to the top of the hip, to the right hip now in this case, as you're windshield wiping to the left side. And breathing deeply, even in our side twists. If we can't get much of an inhale, we still get some good massaging of the viscera, of the internal organs, hopefully, with each deep inhale. And with each deep exhale, maybe we can release just a little more. Any hidden tension, any unusually active, still activated muscles. Then we'll go ahead with the next inhale. Bring the knees back to center. Assist your legs if you need, but focus on keeping the sacrum down if you're down on the mat, keeping the sits bones down if you're on the chair. And then we're going to, if you're in the chair, we're moving into Shavasana. You can stay comfortable in the chair in your base bridge position. But if you're on the mat, we're going to extend through one leg and then extend through the other. And give yourself any last minute movement. You can tap your legs out. You can stretch your arms up above your head. You can flex the feet. You can point the toes. Do what you need to get rid of any last still active muscles so you can move into our final resting pose of Shavasana. That's where you're just relaxing, letting the body respond to today's practice. I will be sitting upright to mind the time while you lay down or you sit seated in a relaxed pose in a chair. And when you hear the next, for the next few minutes, when you hear the 3 bells, we'll awaken. Bringing the mind and the body back together. Take note of sounds outside the room, sounds within the room, and finally back to the breath. Notice the rise of the chest with each inhale, the fall of the belly with each exhale. And as you return to the body vessel, I encourage you to make movements with the fingers, toes. You can start to rock parts of the body, reminding yourself to return. And then we'll make our way to an easy seated position of your choice. You can roll to your side, fetal position. Use a hand and a forearm to help lift the torso back up. And today I am attempting a crisscross applesauce position, a seated Sukhasana, Padmasana. There's lots of words apparently, but we just want you to sit on your sits bones and have your feet. Now in a typical Sukhasana, you'd have one shin out in front of the other, but this is where I am, so work where you can. You can have blocks under your hip bones to help elevate the hips above to help you. You can have blocks under your knees if that helps. But we're trying to sit upright so we can end our class with an alternate nostril breathing exercise. We can keep our left hand in a mudra called Vishnu mudra, which is basically the index and thumb touching. And we're going to rest that palm on the back of your left thigh. On the right hand, we'll come into Vishnu mudra, which is the hand position of the first two fingers on the mount of the thumb. We close the right nostril with the right thumb, close the left nostril with the left ring fingertip. If that's too awkward, well, you can always just put the two fingers to the brow line and close with the right thumb and the right ring knuckle, like so. So we'll take a nice deep breath in, close the right nostril with the right thumb, exhale through the left. Fully exhaled, engage the core. Inhale through the left, close, exhale through the right. Inhale through the right. Close. Exhale through the left. Inhale through the left. Close. Exhale through the right. Inhale through the right. Close. Exhale through the left. Inhale through the left. Close. Exhale through the right. Inhale through the right. Close. Exhale through the left. Last round. Inhale through the left. Close. Exhale through the right. Release the right hand, release the mudras, and let the breath return to its natural state. Thank you so much for joining us here at Gentle Yoga at noon at the ACC Community Room. I hope you have a wonderful day. Namaste. Yay! Thank you, Sue. Thank you, everyone. Okay. Don't forget to drink your water, staying hydrated. So important to mental focus.